This is the water. And this is the well. Drink full and ascend.
Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy. Carl Jung's Black Books, part 54, in which we will pick up right where I think probably BT was the last one, left off in part 53. But first, as always, we'll pull a rune. Because at one point in Carl Jung's life, like later than where we're reading right now, he developed a set of runes. He got really into like Nordic stuff. And I think because he's like coming from that part of the world where all the Nordic stuff were before, so he was exploring that as an element of the collective unconscious. And then when things got a little weird in the 30s in Germany. For those of you familiar with history, you know, things got a little weird. And he said something about Odin running amok, or it made more sense when he said it. I only read Sonu's synopsis of what was going on. It didn't light, so I'm trying again. Got some gum benzoin rocking here. Okay, that ought to do it, I think. Now we can move on to the part of the show where I take a sip of coffee and 70% of you click away. All right, now that they're gone, we can get to it. Something got mixed up. I was messing with the runes. I had two sets of runes, and I was like lining them up, and then I thought I set aside the ones we hadn't pulled yet. There's only a few, and then over on the other side, I thought were the ones we had already pulled, and then somehow last time, BT pulled the same one that we had pulled, or that he had pulled. Yeah, the same one that he had pulled in his previous one where he put all the stuff. Don't worry, we're not doing all that stuff. Only BT does that. So for us today, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say we have not gotten this one yet. It's the one with like a Y that's also a pitchfork. I think that looks nice. Do you think that looks nice up there? The way it's hanging there magically in the air? Because I'm a magician? Let's learn about it, shall we? Just a little bit. See, normally, you know, when people want to talk about stuff, they tell you things that they know about. But what I do is I learn about stuff out loud in your presence. And if you want to, you can learn with me. So that's called Algiz. I'm assuming that's Algiz and not Algiz. Let's go with Algiz. Protection. Oh, good. I mean, with that whole, for those who've seen Twin Peaks: The Return, aka Season 3 of Twin Peaks, then that might make you feel a little better after that opening. Drink full. Protection, the elk, sedge, S-E-D-G-E, or eelgrass. Elk I am familiar with. My first, when I was a little kid, I think it's been long enough. Before there was 626, for those in that part of LA County, you'll be like, hey, wait, he's talking about stuff I'm familiar with. And for everyone else in the world, you'll be like, what? But maybe you'll kind of like, because you're familiar with telephones, you'll kind of relate. Anyway, before there was a 626, it was all 818. So they took 818 and they divided it into 818 and 626. So I think Sierra Madre became 626, but before it was 626, it was 818. It was part of 818. And the whole city is a small city, probably the same size as Majorda, where I am now, and just as many trees, or close. Different kind of trees, though. Anyway, so everybody in Sierra Madre, the first 3 was 355. So if you were in Sierra Madre, then everybody knew that your phone number was 818-355 something. So when people would give each other their phone number, they would say, hey, what's your phone number? He'd say 4804. Different time, right? I mean, if you go back far enough, he'd say, Waterloo 22. Laurel and Hardy fans? Twice 2. Anyway. Right. Yeah. So our phone number was 355-4804. And then my sister had her own private line when she was a teenager. And then she was 8 years older than me. So she moved out and went to college. And I was 10. Those good at math might have been able to figure that out without me telling you. Anyway, so I inherited the private line. So my phone number was 355-9364. And it had long been established that that phone number was 355 Weenie. So 355 WENI, for those who don't know, there's little numbers or little letters on the numbers of the phone. And so, yeah, one time we were painting and we were all kind of giddy, my sister and my mom and I, and we were trying to figure out, like, if there was anything more that could be made of that phone number, like, because some people's phone numbers, you could just say, yeah, my phone number is pterodactyl. And you go, okay, PTERODY, ring. Don't even have to finish spelling it out, and I don't think I spelled pterodactyl correctly just then. If I did, it was purely accidental. Anyway, so so we were trying to think of 355. What is that? 355, and then my sister said elk, and I laughed so hard I almost fell backward down the stairs because I was sitting at the top of the stairs. Let's get to the reading, shall we? I don't think there's anything else I need to go into. Before we get to the reading, we're going to find out what was going on with Carl Jung in his active imagination on January 22nd of 1914. Let's do it. Thereafter, I walk on like a man who is tense and who expects something new that he has never suspected before. I listen to the depths, warned, instructed, undaunted, outwardly striving to lead a full human life. Little line. Quote, so I think this is his soul talking. His soul has now and then been talking to him. So let's see if I'm right. Quote, listen and write. W-R-I-T. All is dark. Wherever you grope in these depths, I am also dark to myself, and I can only break loose pieces, fractions of complete entities, because nothing is solid and everything is possible. Do you want to accept the fragmentary, the shattered? Do you want the shred instead of the garment, the button instead of the trousers? I know I do. That was editory commentary. That was me. That wasn't in the book. The I know I do. I think you probably knew that. The candle instead of the sun. Do you want what is stirred together meaninglessly, melted and crumbled? That should be the tagline for Carl Jung's Black Books. End quote. I will gratefully accept what you give, my soul. I do not have the right to judge or to reject. Fate will separate the wheat from the chaff. We have to subjugate ourselves also to the judgment of valuelessness and destruction in majorem vitae gloriam, bracket parentheses, to the greater glory of life, end bracket parentheses. Teilhard de Chardin, learn a thing or two about translating the Latin you use. Just saying. Quote, so listen, there is old armor and the rusty gear of our fathers down here. Murderous leather trappings hanging from them. Worm-eaten lance shafts. Twisted spearheads. Broken arrows. Rotten shields. Skulls. The bones of man and horse.
The horse is the white of the eyes and dark within.
Thank you, Abraham Lincoln-looking woodsman. Those who know. All right. There was a Karl Marx hanging out in the background, too, at one point. It's worth seeing. Watch Twin Peaks. Anyway, start with Season 1, obviously. Then Season 2, then Fire Walk with Me, the movie, then Twin Peaks: The Return. That's how you do it. Anyway, who? Old cannons, catapults, crumbling firebrands, smashed assault gear, everything the battles of yore have littered the earth with. Will you accept all this? End quote. I accept it, my soul, you know better. Whatever you excavate shall be welcome to me. Perhaps fate allows me to make use of it. There is... What are you going to do with all that? Are you going to make some kind of creep dungeon? I don't know what else you'd be able to do with it. You could put it in a museum, sell tickets. Sorry. There is even older stuff. Stone spearheads, stone clubs, sharp bones, chipped arrowhead teeth. The wood is so moldy that it is falling apart. They have lotions for that, Mr. Sorry. Black carbonized rags lying in between. Shards of black and red pottery vessels. Charcoaled wheat. Smashed and gnawed bones. Everything a prehistoric village has thrown away or has lost. Would you like that as well? By the way, if you're into archaeological conspiracy theories, then I insist that you watch this video all the way through. All right. My dad was the chief editor of the Stones of Atlantis, so I may not be one of you, but I'm not far removed from one of you. Anyway, I would like it. What? Yes, would you like that as well? I would like it. Give it to me. I am grateful to you. I find painted stones, carved bones with magical signs, talismanic sayings on hanks of leather and small plates of lead, dirty pouches filled with teeth, human hair and fingernails, timbers lashed together, black orbs, moldy animal skins, all the superstitions hatched by dark prehistory Will you accept all this? I accept it all. How should I dismiss anything? Do I know if it isn't worth having? Then take all of this on you in daily labor. But I find worse fratricide, cowardly mortal blows, torture, child sacrifice, the annihilation of whole peoples, arson, betrayal, war, rebellion. Also this, if it must be. But how can I judge? At a certain point, you gotta judge, Mr. Jung. Sign a petition or something. Fuck. I find epidemics, natural catastrophes, sunken ships, razed cities, frightful animals of the wilderness, famines, human meanness. Rhymes with. And fear, whole mountains of fear. This ties in a little bit to the Meccan Revelation we read yesterday in Seolim. Or read, I should say. So shall it be, since you give it. I find the treasures of all past cultures, magnificent images of gods, spacious temples, paintings, papyrus rolls, sheets of parchment with the characters of bygone languages, books full of lost wisdom, hymns and chants. Oh God, that's the worst thing so far listed. Just kidding. Of ancient priests, stories told down the ages through thousands of generations. That is an entire world whose extent I cannot grasp. How can I accept it? Quote, finally, there hasn't been quotes in a while. But you wanted to accept everything that I give you. You see, you do know your limits. Can you not limit yourself? End quote. I must limit myself. Who could ever grasp such wealth? Quote, be content and cultivate your garden with modesty. End quote. You know what I'm thinking, right? If you don't, you have a very clean mind. Okay. I will. I see that it is not worth conquering a larger piece of the immeasurable, but a smaller one instead. A well-tended small garden is better than an ill-tended large garden, like in the 70s. They had different trends, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, both gardens are equally small when faced with the immeasurable, but unequally cared for. Quote, take shears and prune your trees. I'd rather make this a little bit of a short one rather than read the next passage and make this a very long one. Yeah, I think my spontaneous decision to include that quote at the beginning before the initial chicken cluck, plus this, was right on point for this one. He went into some dark places. His soul was saying, hey, one of the things, of course, Jung is known for is embrace your shadow. Those parts of yourself that you don't want to look at, that you try to ignore, that you try to pretend aren't part of you. You ignore them, and then they get worse behind the scenes. They affect you in ways that you are unconscious of, that you're ignoring. And worst of all, you become very harsh, judgmental, and hate-filled toward anything that you see externally that reminds you of your own shadow, i.e., not necessarily like your evil side, but yeah, probably. I mean, if you're a person who really likes having a reputation for being evil, but secretly you love kittens, and you hope that your grandma's okay, but you don't want to admit that even to yourself, even in your own thoughts, you push that back into your unconscious mind, then in that case your shadow would be good and your outward persona would be evil. So there's an example, an absurd example, but just to illustrate the point that the shadow self doesn't mean the evil self necessarily. For those who've been watching at least the last, let's say, 5 episodes, then you might have observed, or maybe 6, 7 episodes, I mean of all the books, not just the Carl Jung recitals, might have observed that I myself came to accept a part of my shadow, which was the inner good Lutheran boy who actually, is paying attention to all the advice that his grandma and Martin Luther and the guy at the pulpit gave him as a young man, and tries to live his life by it. I've been pushing that away and being unnecessarily harsh toward the readings of Martin Luther, while letting other things slide that are just as lame or less lame. I mean, Martin Luther at least has an emphasis on helping the poor and the needy, and not being a hypocrite and telling the truth and stuff like that. So anyway, all right. That's about it, I guess, for today. It's a short one, another short one. We aim for half an hour. Sometimes we go over, sometimes we go under. And recently we went way over. I think that recent Secret of the Golden Flower was like 54 minutes or something like that. I don't know. All right. I guess that's it. So up next will be BT reading Teilhard de Chardin. It's always fun, usually always. And, may you go with the protection talisman, especially if you're drinking full from the well of Carl Jung's experimental early years, as you apparently are, because you're watching Carl Jung's Black Books on Chicken Philosophy. Okay.